This podcast is sponsored by Insurity. Insurity are a national specialist insurance broker focusing on property insurance within the leasehold and private rental sectors. Their clients are central to all that they do, and they strive to raise awareness of changing insurance needs within the property sector. As partner to the Property Institute, Insurity continue to work closely with the Property Institute and its members in order to drive the property industry forward.
Welcome to another episode of Beyond Four Walls, the podcast that takes you beyond the day-to-day of property management and into the real-life experiences shaping our industry. Today, I'm joined by a fantastic guest, Claire Savill, an industry expert with an impressive 18 years experience in the mixed-use sector. Claire joined SAY in October 2024 and has held leadership roles at some of the biggest names in the industry, including Savills and Navana Property Group. She's a full member of the Property Institute and a qualified RICS residential surveyor, bringing a wealth of knowledge in asset management, operational strategy, and service charge budget formulation. And with a background working in-house at Ballymore, Claire has navigated the complexities of large-scale estates, ensuring developments are not just well-designed but also well-managed. And she's worked with major developers like Wimpey in central London, Berkeley Group and Muse, and is passionate about getting pre-development consultancy right from the start. And today we're going to talk about Claire's journey into the property world, her insights on industry challenges, and her advice for the next generation of property managers. So Claire, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. What an intro. Thank you.
No problem. I'm glad we're going to talk about pre-development consultancy, actually, because it's one of the things when you're dealing with a development that you just think, why didn't you think of that? We'll get into that in a minute. But firstly, can you just tell me a little bit about your journey into the property world and what first drew you to it?
I fell into property, as I think nearly all my peers did. Naively, I thought buildings just stood and did their thing and no one needed to look after them. Little did I know that there's so much that goes into property management and it's down to one individual. So I was office temping at the time. I fell out of university. It wasn't for me. I joined Office Angels. I got my team secretary position and I worked for Ballymore to cover a holiday period within their sales and marketing team. Did a good job, and the head of asset management caught wind of my performance and asked me to come across and look after the in-house, at the time, residential team. And then he made a position for me as team secretary. I looked after 2 property managers, 1 senior property manager and 2 administrators, as well as the head of asset manager and his PA randomly. Okay. She needed more hands on deck. And then I worked my way up through the ranks to property manager. I have either managed, mobilised or been involved in some sort of development for most of the Docklands schemes that you see today.
Oh, amazing.
And I got to the point where I just wanted to focus on consultancy, and my manager at the time was doing that, and we had a frank conversation and she said, I'm not sharing this. This is my baby. If you want to do this, suggest you look elsewhere. And I thought, well, I've been here 7 years. It's my first full-time proper job in the city. Time for me to move on. So I joined Chainbow, which was a smallish boutique managing agent. We looked after Taylor Wimpey Central London, for example, but I really cut my teeth, as it were, on property then. We looked after old mansion blocks through to new build developments, through to your 2 flats above a shop on a high street. So I really expanded my skill set across all kinds of tenures. And again, fell very quickly into consultancy. So I started expanding my portfolio, looking after the new builds that were coming on into our management. Some had previous managing agents, and then the more and more we got into the nitty-gritty, we were taking them directly from Taylor Wimpey Central London. So that's when my mobilisation career, as it were, started.
Yeah.
And then tried to specialise just in consultancy. We were purchased by Savills to bolster their block management offerings so they could win the Welcome Trust, Instructions and Crown Estate. And then I looked after I think it was a team of 7 at the time, property managers, senior property managers, assistant property managers. I was a team leader alongside 2 other team leaders. One was Midlands and another one looked after the Wellcome Trust estate, and I looked after everything else. Some more work with Taylor Wimpey Central London, Muse, other developers whose names escape me at the moment. And then I thought I'd had enough of working at a big corporate giant. I felt like we were losing touch with our residents. We weren't providing a good service. We were providing the bare minimum. So I looked to sell my soul, as it was at the time, and joined Berkeley. And that's where I met Kelly, who set up Navana Property Group with 2 other founders. And I didn't look back from there. So I joined a startup company and set up the property management division there and the consultancy side, specialised in just consultancy and mobilisation. I looked after Galemco, Taylor Wimpey again. They seem to follow me around. And then they merged with Lee Barron. And again, the direction didn't really go where we thought it was going to go. And I wanted to join Say, I think, for a few years then, and there wasn't any openings. And there was an opening last year, and here I am. Doing
amazing.
what I love day in, day out.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds like you've certainly found, like during your career path, you've found what you like, what you don't like, and you've managed to settle somewhere that, really brings out your skill set. So what excites you most about your role at the moment?
I think, as with property, it's varied. No day is the same. I find that doing consultancy, I can make more of a difference than I could when I was managing the scheme. And I get a bigger reward from completing a project and knowing that I've helped that developer, helped that RMC. Whereas with property, it was quite self-gratification that you finish one project, you're on to the next one. No one really says thank you.
No.
They only pick up when you do something wrong, which is really rewarding.
Or soul destroying.
Yeah. So yeah, I think being a consultant, I can dip in and out of projects. I can do management tenders one day, looking at service charge audits the next, and then doing design for management the week after. I really like the variation.
Yeah, and I think across the board in our industry, it is very much like that. Like every day, even if you're just, if you're not just a property manager, but you know what I mean. If you're, from the administrators to the directors, every day is different. You're not just sat doing the same thing constantly, which I really like about our industry. Actually, you never get bored.
Exactly the same. Never. Yeah, no day is the same. There's always a story to tell.
Yeah,
and I think that's what kept me in, or has kept me in property for so long. If it was just office administration work, I think I would have got bored very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, there are boring aspects to what we do, and there are things, or what I might find boring, you might find really exciting to do. It's I might love going out to meet contractors and getting up on the scaffolding and checking the roof work and doing all that kind of thing, and that might be your worst nightmare.
Not the scaffolding. Give me a plant room. I love a plant room.
Love a plant room.
Looking at M&E. I remember my first proper plant room that I went round, and we had a really good M&E contractor who is still going today, PhD mechanical, little shout out. The only way I could learn how to explain to residents where their service charge money was going was to understand the plant room. Absolutely. And I was lucky enough to have that contractor with me. And I think he just loved the sound of his own voice at one point, but he was telling me, this does this, and that then connects to that. And if this goes down, then this happens. And it really solidified for me how everything works. And it's so intrinsic to providing a property management service. It stuck with me. It's the first thing I want to see when I go to a new scheme is, can I have a look at your plant room?
But you've got to understand literally the mechanics of how everything works, the basics of everything in order to be able to do your job properly and to do it well, and to have the respect as well, I think, of the property, of the people that you're living at the property, because if you know what you're talking about, they very quickly change their tune.
And you are expected to be the expert in the room.
Of course, yeah.
And I think that lovely phrase, the jack of all trades, master of none, rings true. It does property managers well to have a bit of knowledge in all areas.
Yeah.
But for me, plant rooms was just something that I found fascinating.
Just don't want to go on a roof. I'm just not bothered about the roof.
No, not for the roof. The height of things getting worse as I get older. It's
bless you.
I'm happier to stay on the ground or underground, as it were, if it's
underground. Yeah,
underground,
definitely.
yeah.
Love it. So, can you tell me along sort of along the career path that you've chosen? Is there? I'm sure there are many moments, but is there one moment that really stands out as a turning point for you, or something that you think, do you know what, I'm so proud of that achievement, or anything like that?
I think every time I moved company, that was a turning point. It expanded skills that I had, solidified them, but also introduced new ones. So from moving to Chamber, we were more boutique, we were more focused on customer service and client care. So that taught me that range of skills that I didn't necessarily have at Ballymore, where we were looking after our own stock. So I didn't really have a client as such. It was we were all the client at the end. Joining Navana Property Group as a startup company, I learned a huge amount about branding and marketing, PR, company administration, setup, looking at strategies, processes, procedures, policies. Every time I changed jobs, that was a turning point for me. A highlight was when I became RICS qualified. That was an intense 2-year period because I'd been in the industry for however many years at that point in time. I was able to fast track. I didn't have to do the full APC route. I could do a shorter version, but I did have to learn valuations, which was not my cup of tea. Hats off to the valuers out there. You are a rare breed of person. So that was a highlight for me. And I think that then it added value to me as the expert in the room, that I did have a qualification behind me. I remember one meeting with a resident and they just said, well, who are you? How are you qualified to do property management? And I thought, that's a really good question. If you go to a dentist or a doctor or a handyman, they're all qualified in that area. There are some letters after their name or a certificate, whatever it may be. For property managers, there wasn't really, other than the IRPM at the time. So I thought having the RICS stamp of approval would bolster that.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to say, because there's a lot of talk, isn't there, about, when hopefully the industry is regulated, that part of that regulation is going to be qualifications, like in social housing. And I think it's actually really important because, one, it does give the client confidence that you know what you're talking about. It gives you confidence in the job that you're doing. I was hot on it when I first started. I wanted to do the qualification. I paid for it myself, actually. My managers at the time didn't believe in it or didn't think that it was, oh, it's not necessary, you don't need it, kind of thing. But I was like, no, do you know what? If I want to, excuse me, if I want to progress my career and my knowledge, I think they knew that I was doing what is now ATPI and supported me through that, but didn't want me to go any further. So I just took a day's leave and booked the exam and just went off and did it, and thankfully passed and paid for it all myself. So and did all the study myself and didn't take any time off for it, unless I just said I was having leave. But I think it's, the qualification side of things is incredibly important. And it's great now that you can do it through apprenticeships, and there's various ways that you can get it. And the same with RICS, you can go down the senior professional route, can't you now? So, but is that what you did, senior professional
Yes,
route?
that's exactly what I did,
Yeah.
Didn't anticipate that I'd have to do valuations, but glad I got to it.
No, I started looking at it a few years back, but with, running the business and then having a child and all that kind of stuff, it just got in the way.
Gosh, yeah, it takes up so much time. I did it in after work and weekends.
It
was hard going, but rewarding that I got my Emirates at the end of my name.
Yeah, definitely something that is still on my tick list to do, but just having the time to do it.
When you have some bandwidth, definitely, I recommend doing it.
Yeah, I just like to add things to my plate. It's just, in my nature a little bit.
Exactly.
But tell me about pre-development consultancy. What does it mean? What's the common mistakes developers make? Talk me through it.
Gosh, how long have you got?
As long as you like.
As long as you like. So I think developers are moving away from the common mistakes that I saw at the beginning when I first got into consultancy. Where's your cleaner's store? How are your cleaners going to clean 12 floors of common area when they have to go to the basement or the kitchenette and fill up their mops and buckets?
And no PowerPoints.
And no PowerPoint, exactly. CCTV placement, leaving blind spots in and around the estate, internal, external. And I think more recently, it's more mechanical and electrical. Heating systems, for example, everyone forgets the energy billing. You think, well, you've put all these meters in, how do you expect the property manager to read them and then rebill? They don't really have the back of house support to do that kind of thing. We're not a mini EDF or an E.ON. Thankfully, there are billing agents out there that do that, but they still need to have the right equipment in place to do that. And obviously with all the heat network regulations coming in as well, it's really critical that a developer has that in place and has thought about their energy strategy.
Something that I found when I was looking after a new development was there was a teeny tiny window right in the corner, and it was specifically designed. Sounds a bit silly, like, you know, they're building some sort of pyramid in Egypt or something, but it was specifically designed so that when the light hit it, as the sun came round, as the light hit it, that it reflected onto the atrium, this beautiful sunshine and da 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 da.
Oh, wow.
Well, try cleaning it, because there was no sunshine coming through that window because it was dirty as hell. You couldn't get up to it unless you put internal scaffolding up every time. It was just impossible. And if you needed to repair anything through it, then you had leaks coming through. And very lovely touch, I'm sure. But think about it when you're doing stuff.
Exactly. Make it practical. It's all well and good being pretty. I think I had a similar scheme on City Road that had double, triple height ceilings with fan coils in them and lovely louvres, and the floor was suspended. And I thought, but if you need to get to those units to service them or change the lights or anything like that, we need a cherry picker or scaffolding, but the suspended floor can't take that. You can only take a certain amount of weight. So it was building all those elements into the cleaning strategy, which if it was left to an architect or, you know, the M&E provider or whoever it is, they don't think of the maintenance and the long-term access arrangements, because it's not their bag. For me, it's all the operational side of things, making sure it's efficient, making sure it's cost effective. This magic £5 a square foot that developers seem to have, I'm glad to see that they are slowly moving away from it. But realistically, just to do the baseline of this is what it costs to maintain and keep your building compliant, you can easily exceed £5. Plus they want 24/7 staff. So then looking at the staffing versus technology element, do you really need someone to sit at the desk and smile at a resident when they walk in? It's all very nice to have, but that person costs a lot of money on the service charge. VAT is now, you have to have VAT on there unless the landlord's going to employ them, and working ways around would the landlord employ them so that you can reduce that 20%, but also you're still providing payroll services or performance management and things like that. And then getting into the nice stuff, which I used to call fluffy stuff, but I'm not allowed to call it like that.
Oh, okay.
Having a friends in customer experience, I'm told it's not fluffy. It's actually just as critical as operations, which of course it is. But they're the more fun elements that you're not looking at a light switch or a boiler or how you're going to clean that window that you gave as an example.
Yeah.
You're looking at the experience of the resident moving into the development, moving around the development, using the amenities. Are they going to use that gym that you've put in the basement when they've got a lovely Virgin Active or a third space or whatever the gym provider is down the road that you could do a deal with and have a discounted membership because they are a local resident?
Yeah.
So trying to encompass all of those and getting it into an affordable service charge is a real balancing act and a challenge, but it's one that I love.
The service charge element is critical, isn't it? Because, you know, everything's in the press about how expensive everything is, and just to literally maintain the bare bones of that building costs a fortune, especially if you've got all of the equipment that you mentioned and, you know, all the M&E stuff, and having to get cherry pickers in to clean windows and change light bulbs and that sort of stuff. But actually, if you spoke to, when it gets down the line and you've got the building is full of leaseholders and they've got to pay the service charge, and the developer has told them, well, it's just going to cost £5 per square metre, but actually it costs £15 per square metre. I'm chucking numbers out here. However many years down the line, the managing agent is then getting the grief because my service charge has gone up by 100% or 50% or however many percent. well, the managing agent didn't have anything to do with setting that service charge at the beginning. That managing agent, if you have a managing agent in mind, should that managing agent be involved right from the start before a brick is even laid? Get them involved with the plans. If you have that agent in mind already, what do you think on that?
I think absolutely, as early as you can bring your property manager into the development, even at concept stage. I mean, that's the really exciting part where you can make the most impact and add value. I think is absolutely critical. But for most property managers, you're still doing your day job. You've still got your portfolio to manage. You don't then have the time or capacity to give the attention that it needs to do that consultancy, which is why Save exists. We can do that element. We're all property management background or FM background from some shape or form, and we can provide developers that expertise. And then part of doing the management tenders, we can ensure that their managing agents are set up for success.
Yeah.
And that's what we all want, really, isn't it? To address the point that you made about the service charge not being realistic, just so that the developer could sell, falling into that problem of, well, you've got a very unhappy group of residents from day one, and you're going to constantly be chasing your tail to turn them around, on top of all the compliance elements that you've got to deal with, on top of the cleaning, all of those things. So yeah, I think it's absolutely critical that property managers get involved as soon as they can.
It's about having that collaborative approach, isn't it? And I remember going back to this building that I was managing, there was absolutely no collaborative approach between the managing agent, the developer, the freeholder, because the developer sold the freehold off, but was then still developing in another area. And it just got so confusing about which stakeholder you were supposed to actually be dealing with. And then the poor property manager, as in me, and I'm sure all the property managers that have come after me are just holding their heads in their hands thinking, what do I do? Who do I go to? Or my bosses didn't want to annoy the developer by saying, well, there's a defect. So actually, there was a defect, which the developer should have put right, but they don't want to annoy them because they want to be the managing agent on their next project. You couldn't collaborate productively, if you like, because there was just all of these barriers put in place. And it just sounds like what you're doing at Say is trying to bring that collaborative approach and get it right from the start.
Yeah, and I think trying to bridge that gap between developer, property manager, all your contractors and architects and things like that the developer has on their side, and really it feels like we're the missing piece of the puzzle, that it just makes that all seamless transition. Because I think that there is a lot of instances where developers are very keen to complete their buildings, obviously get their residents move in.
Yeah.
And then if their long-term strategy is to not retain the freehold, a lot of them aren't doing that now because ground rent is no longer a thing. They need that money from the sales to then start their next project. And then the managing agent's left holding the baby, as it were, and all the defects, as you were saying, are left with them. And then you don't want to, as you said, upset the developer because you want further business. But I hope property managers are getting better at sticking up for themselves and pushing back to say, I can't manage that with that defect. You have to fix it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let you hide behind me as a barrier between you and the residents. If your service charge is unrealistic, that's on you. That's not on us. We're trying to put it right and move it forward so that we can maintain this building, so that it is safe, so that it is a nice place.
Yeah, having the courage to speak up for what's right is a big part of our job, I think, and something that we don't always all have the skills to do, or the experience, I guess, behind us to think, actually, no, that's just not right. We need to do this differently. But yeah, thinking about more of the sort of the most complex estates you've worked on, are there any challenges that stick out for you? Again, how long have I got? But
yeah,
pick one.
Pick one. So, I mean, I don't think I can name names, but they were an incredibly demanding developer. They literally wanted the moon on a stick for a penny. So that in itself was hugely challenging, trying to get their service charge budget to be realistic, yet affordable, yet also something they could sell was a real challenge. And I'm a great believer in, don't just present a problem or say, no, you can't do that. You've always got to come back with some options. So no, you can't have light at 2 meters above, the floor and a suspended access floor that we can't get a cherry picker in on. However, you could do X, Y, Z, and it will cost A, B, C. What do you want to go for? And then sort of piecing it together from there. But there were many more challenges when it came to part of the build process. Their contractor went bust. They had to find a new one. They then decided they were going to self-deliver. There was a loss of information and continuity from the team. So as I'd been the one from start to finish, I was educating them on what had happened, decisions that were made, why we're doing things the way we are. And then through to handover, it was a real race to the finish. And there were defects, there were corners that were cut, there were sloppy, should I say, which they're going to hate, finishes. And it wasn't the best impression. It wasn't a great impression at all for residents moving in. And then because it was a phase completion, we also had, I think, 3 or 4 different move-in strategies, because they had to come in one entrance, but then the next month it was the other entrance because we'd had to close this off to finish part of the basement. So it was always a lot of moving parts. But I think because I'd been there from the beginning, I could see the bigger picture and I could put the pieces of the jigsaw together, whereas the client team or the contractor couldn't, because they didn't have that history. So that was probably my biggest complex challenge of consultancy and mobilisation to date, and hopefully I never have one like that again, because that was a stressful time.
Yeah, but at least if you do have it again, you've got the experience. You've probably learnt from what, not going to do that again kind of thing, and you'll do something differently. So maybe if it does come around again, the next time won't be as stressful, because
it probably won't be a challenge, because I will foresee what's
absolutely.
going to happen.
Like, oh, hang on a minute, I know what's going to happen here. Let's just jump on that straight away.
Exactly.
But is there a common, I guess, operational mistake that property managers make when they come into sites that you've put together as such? I guess you've been there from the start, and when property managers then come in as as part of the managing agent contract, do you see them making any particular mistakes along the way that you can foresee or give advice on?
I think having a robust handover procedure and a mobilisation plan, some of them fall foul of, and they absolutely need to have that. I think gone are the days where you can rock up with the contractor and say, yeah, okay, I'll take this floor, or I'll take handover of that particular block, and you, between the two of you, you muddle together and you make it all compliant and safe for people to move into. Now with building safety and the golden thread, you absolutely can't get away with that. Everything has to be checked, verified, I's dotted, T's crossed. So having a plan, a list of information that you need in order to do your job is critical. And setting realistic timescales. Don't tell the client what they want to hear. Be realistic, manage expectations, and do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, definitely. I'm terrible sometimes, or have been in the past, terrible for promising the earth, because I want to make them, happy, and I want them to think good of me and all of that kind of stuff. But actually it either puts me under so much pressure that, I end up rushing it and it's just terrible. Or I don't meet that deadline and I have to go back with a tail between my legs and say, I'm really sorry. I couldn't do that for you. So I have learned the hard way over the years, not as bad as I used to be. And I still want to give a good impression and exceed expectation and all that kind of stuff. But I have certainly learned not to say, yes, you'll have that today, because there's no chance you're going to get it today.
Wholeheartedly agree. And I think the fear of disappointing someone or letting them down, or the vision that you think you're going to let them down. Obviously, you're going to let them down if you promise the earth and you don't deliver.
Yeah.
It's better to be realistic about it. But I absolutely fall foul of doing that. And I think, yeah, I can do that. And then another email or another project or a problem occurs that wasn't foreseen, and it completely throws the whole week out, as it did in the property management days. If there was a leak on site or a team member had gone sick, it would throw your whole week plan, if not month plan, out of the window. And you'd have to be adaptable and flexible and adjust to it. and I'm still doing that today.
With the role of property managers, I guess everything's gonna change with the Building Safety Act and fire risk and golden threads and all that kind of stuff. It's not how it was when we started.
We barely got O&Ms when I started.
Oh, I know.
That was find a contractor who can look after that piece of kit and sort of fudge your way
for the
through.
best.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But how do you think the role of a property manager will evolve in the next 5 years?
I would like to think that we will specialise. So this is something we tried to do at Navana Property Group, that we felt it was too much on one person to be a mediator, an FM, a customer service, a finance person with budgets and year ends. Get the specialists in the room and work together as a team to manage that scheme. So I think building safety may still go in that direction, to have an expert in that field, a building safety manager or a regulator, and take that away from the property manager. So the property manager still needs to ensure that it's being done, but they're not the ones responsible for doing the do. And I think if we could separate those skill sets so that you have a property manager who, like me, loves a plant room, you're more suited to the FM route, specialise in FM, whereas a colleague who, or like you said at the very beginning, you love going on site and meeting new people and clients, the customer service, you're the customer experience, you're the front-facing skill set. I would love to see it go in that direction so that we are no longer jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah.
And I think that will only benefit residents.
Yeah. I think as property managers are coming into the industry, I think it's a really good training tool to have the jack of all trades philosophy, if you like. So learn as much as you can. A bit like, I guess, when you're training to be a doctor, you have to know everything in order to get your medical degree and and then you go into specialisms and that sort of stuff. But, there's a lot of now, when actually you don't know how to do a Section 20 or you don't know how to do X, Y, and Z, but you need to know all of that stuff, in order to be able to specialize, in order to be able to train the next property managers coming in. So if you could give property managers coming into the industry a bit of advice now, what would you say?
I think I was going to say, when I'm having a bad day, it's don't do it. Go back and retrain as something else. But no, I would say do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't, say, if you don't have an update, a no update is still an update. Be organised, be patient, and don't take it personally. I remember when I first came into the industry, I was meek, I was quiet, I was super polite, I felt like I was taking up space. And as soon as I had my first bad interaction with a resident who was just grumpy, they had a big bill of their service charge, they were understandably frustrated, they took it out on me and I took it personally, and I thought, I am the worst person in the world, I've just upset this resident. Property management gives you a thick skin, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I think you need to be prepared to change as a person, that it will make you a bit tougher and make you a bit stronger. Like doctors, when they see blood, gore, guts, it doesn't faze them. Death doesn't faze them. It's just another thing in their job. Not saying that property managers have those things, God forbid.
No, hopefully not.
No, but I think it does desensitize you somewhat to things that you would have normally reacted to.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still guilty of it now. I am very sensitive. I don't think I could grow a thick skin if I tried.
I'd be surprised. I think your skin's probably thicker than what you give yourself credit for.
I think it's more a case of being a bit more resilient these days. I can pick myself back up. I still get knocked down. I'll still take that hit straight away, but I'm better at getting back up quicker. I guess I'm quicker at getting back up than I used to be.
Yeah.
But I still take the knock first. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where it just goes over my head. I think for me, if somebody came to me with an issue that is very factual and it's a case of, well, the lease says, so you can still say it politely or give them the answer politely and compassionately and that sort of thing. But when it's down to the terms of the lease or how the service charge is demanded or anything like that, which is very factual, I'm much better at dealing with that because but if somebody's just shouting at me for no reason because the bins haven't been collected and that's not my fault, I still tend to take that quite personally because they're shouting at me. So I do still take the knock, but can get back up a bit quicker.
I think the knocks make you stronger. I mean, it's a learning curve, isn't it? Every time something like that happens, you know how to deal with it differently next time. And I think sometimes with leaseholders just wanting to have a moan, don't interrupt them, listen to them, empathise with them. I always put myself in their situation and think, well, if that was me and my bins weren't collected, I'd be pretty miffed as well.
Yeah.
But I think because I'm in property, I now know that it's not the person on the end of the phone's fault. They're just taking the brunt of everything, bless them.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think I have a deeper understanding and appreciation for people on the front line. It's not them personally. However, if it is, then, well, watch out.
Yeah.
You're going to get an earful.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I know what you mean. So what's the best piece of career advice you think you've ever received?
It's the best, but I absolutely hate it. Take yourself out of your comfort zone as much as you can. And within that, you'll find growth and you'll find new skills and you'll be a better person from it. As awful as it is being out of your comfort zone, you have to challenge yourself. You have to push yourself to do more, to do better. Yeah, that was the best piece of advice I got. So we were doing a lot of pitch presentations, public speaking, things like that. And I hate role play. Practicing in front of your peers just fills me with all kinds of dread.
I know.
But my previous manager made me do it again.
Sorry, do I have to interrupt you here just to say,
right.
Considering I got an A in drama for GCSE,
there you go.
despise role play because I get so embarrassed. But anyway, continue. I had to get that in there. Sorry.
And I hated drama. That was my worst subject at school.
Gosh.
I would try and be sick or hide or something. I hated it. Anything that put me in the spotlight in front of, colleagues or schoolmates at the time, it sent shivers down my spine, and it still does today, but I can do it. And I much prefer to do a pitch presentation on the hoof and just wing it, which obviously you can't wing it if you want to win the business. So yeah, that was a definite out of my comfort zone element. And confrontation is what no one likes those. No one likes to have the horrible conversations with the client to say, well, actually, you can't get your £5 a square foot budget, I'm afraid, because of X, Y, Z. But I find if you practice and you've got some solutions, it makes the experience so much better.
Completely agree.
It's better received.
Just practice in your own way, not with role play, because that's just silly. Yeah. And finally, a couple more questions before we finish up. If you could change one thing about the property industry overnight, what would it be?
I think something that's quite dear to me at the moment is equality. I think there should be equal standing for men and women and everything in between. I am saddened to say that I think sexism's still going on today. I've experienced it myself, as I'm sure all the female peers have. And I would love to see a day where that doesn't exist anymore, and not just in property, across the world. It's only going to make it a better place for everyone. Other than that, obviously world peace.
Well, yeah.
And for residents, I think, and leaseholders, just to understand a bit more what their property manager is doing for them. Like, the buildings are still standing. You are sleeping safe at night in the comfort of your own home. It's not catching on fire. It's not leaking. All your heating systems and your hot water are working. I think a little bit of appreciation for that would be fantastic. No. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. How can people find you if they wish to have your consultancy services?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Claire Savill, or they can find me on Say Property Consultancy website, or my email address, claire@sayproperty.co.uk.
Perfect. Well, I'll pop all of that in the show notes anyway. But no, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for yours.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my latest podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram. The links are in the show notes. Or you can contact me on jodie@jodiefraser.com. For more content and updates, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favourite platforms. Thank you once again for listening. Until next time, take care.